1, 2, 1, 2, test, test, 1, 2, 1, 2, test, test, 1, 2. Test, test, 1, 2, 1, 2, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 1, 2, test, test, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 1, 2, test, test. Okay.
Is CDC staff ready to start the meeting? Ready? Are you ready? Okay, perfect. Good afternoon, and welcome to the January 14th, 2025 regular meeting of the Community Development Commission of Chicago. I am Gwendolyn Hatton Butler, Chairwoman of the CDC. Today's meeting is being held at City Hall, room 201A, and is also being streamed by the Department of Planning and Development. The agenda for today's meeting was posted on January 9th, 2025, both on the CDC website and physically at City Hall. I will now call to order the January 14th, 2025 meeting of the Community Development Commission with a call of the roll. Commissioners, when your name is called, please respond by saying present. Please note this vote will be used to establish the roll call for all subsequent items. Vice Chair Thomas, Secretary Chan McKibben, DPD Commissioner Boatwright, Commissioner Buford, Commissioner Curtis, Commissioner Davis, Commissioner Gomez, Commissioner Griggs,
Present.
Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Millsap, Commissioner Zayas. Thank you, commissioners. We have a quorum, and I'd like to welcome Commissioner Terrence Johnson to his first CDC meeting. Thank you for joining us. The first item on our agenda requests approval of the minutes from our previous meeting held on November 12, 2024. The commissioners have had an opportunity to review the minutes, and if there are no corrections, I move passage of this item by the same roll call vote previously used to establish quorum. Are there any corrections or objections? Hearing no corrections or objections, the motion is approved. Commissioners, for the first item of new business on today's agenda, the Department of Planning and Development is seeking authority to acquire the property located at 7850 through 7872 South Exchange Avenue in the Avalon Park South Shore Redevelopment Project area. London Walther will provide a brief description of this request on behalf of the Department of Planning and Development.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairwoman Butler, members of the commission. For the record, my name is London Walther with the Department of Planning and Development. As mentioned, today I am seeking acquisition authority of land at 7850 to 7872 South Exchange Avenue, also known as the Thrive Exchange Project. The proposed project is part of Plan Development 1582, which is a multi-phase project that includes the development of affordable housing and multi-use buildings. I am seeking acquisition authority of the 5 privately owned parcels located in Sub-Area B, which is the northern half of the plan development. Once acquired, the city plans to demolish the existing buildings on those parcels, which would allow CDOT to complete roadway work on Exchange Avenue. You'll see that in the next few slides. The anticipated cost of the work will be roughly $1.36 million. That includes costs of land acquisition, building demolition, environmental studies, contingencies, and maintenance. Demolition work is anticipated sometime later this year. The project is located at the corner of 79th and Exchange Avenue within the Avalon Park South Shore TIF district as served by Alderman Mitchell of the 7th Ward. Alderman Mitchell is supportive of this acquisition and has provided a letter of support. This is an aerial of the sites we are looking to acquire. Points of interest nearby are the Metro Station at 79th Street, 79th Street Commercial Corridor, and Rainbow Beach to the immediate east of here. And as you can see, I'll note on this map, as you can see, Exchange Avenue runs northwest to southeast. And once you, along the Metro tracks, and once you get to 79th Street, you need to make a hard turn to get to the rest of Exchange Avenue, which runs north and south, just south of 79th Street. This has been problematic and dangerous for vehicles and pedestrians at this intersection. This is a close-up of the site. The site contains 5 parcels total and about 34,000 square feet of land. The site contains 3 vacant buildings, a 12,000 square foot mixed-use building, and 2 single-story commercial buildings. The remainder of the land is vacant and unimproved. Here are the current conditions of the site. These are the existing buildings. They're currently boarded up and vacant. Here's a general overall site plan of the entire development. The plan development includes the north and south buildings. The south building is scheduled, and that is, the south building is marked as B. The south building is due to begin construction in the first quarter of this year. I will note that this site plan will change once CDOT can begin design work on the street realignment. Exchange Avenue would then be reconfigured to traverse through parcels labeled as A. The remainder of the land will be developed in the future. Once other projects that are not in the plan development but are part of the overall project include the rehabilitation of the Ringer building labeled as C and a land swap with Metra for the parking at South building labeled as I. Here are the sources and uses. The acquisition and demolition work would be completely TIF funded. The land acquisition will cost $700,000, which was the land's appraised value. Demolition work would cost around $300,000. The remainder of the cost would be used for environmental studies, maintenance, and other contingencies. Details of the acquisition parcels can be seen on this slide. The total acreage comes to 0.76 acres. The owner of the land has been notified by the Department of Planning and Development for our request to acquire the land. As stated earlier, the Department of Planning and Development is seeking acquisition authority to acquire 5 parcels as part of the completion of Plan Development 1582. The city will acquire the parcels and demolish the existing structures. Acquiring this land will allow CDOT to complete the necessary road work at a notoriously dangerous intersection. The intention is for CDOT to realign Exchange Avenue to increase vehicular and pedestrian safety. CDOT has confirmed that they have a separate funding source for the Exchange Avenue realignment and would begin design and construction of said street following the demolition of the building. The remainder of the land would then be developed as part of phase 2 for the planned development, bringing vibrancy to the surrounding community. The Department of Planning and Development is requesting the commission to grant authority to acquire the property identified in the previous slides located in the Avalon Park South Shore redevelopment plan. This concludes my presentation, and city staff is available to answer any questions.
Thank you, London. I don't see Alderman Mitchell present. Is anyone from their office present and would like to make a statement? London, you did indicate that Alderman Mitchell has provided their support.
Yes. I have a
Thank
letter of
you.
support on file. Yes.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for London Walther regarding this request by the Department of Planning and Development? Yes, Commissioner Curtis.
So you've shown the parcels in the way that you plan to break these
Excuse me,
down.
Commissioner Curtis, could you speak into the mic? Turn it on. Thanks.
You've shown the parcels and the rehabilitation of those. I'm not sure that I understand. After this has been demolished, then will the city continue to own this? The plan is to sell these parcels. What is the use of the parcels at that point?
So the city will, the land will be under the city's inventory. I'll go back to the slide. So what's here labeled as A, that we'll have to conduct a PIN division, which will allow CDOT to do their roadway work, and the city will own the land that has been divided, and we'll keep that under our inventory. The remainder of the land would then be under city inventory until it is sold to a developer for future development.
Okay, so these aren't actually buildings that I'm looking at here. These are vacant lots at that point.
At that point, yes, they'll be vacant, and then the site plan will subject to change once we get new designs for the.
Got it. Thank you.
streetscape
That's
work.
all. That's Mo.
Any other questions by members of the commission? I actually have a question. Is there a schematic you can show us of exactly what the CDOT improvements will be?
They have not begun design work on the streetscape and street realignment. They're waiting for approval for acquisition, and then once the building is demolished, that's when they will begin design and construction.
Is there anyone that can describe in general what the improvements will look like? Will the street be widened? Will there be pedestrian overpass or underpass? You know, we as part of the presentation, we've talked about how dangerous this intersection is. So can you provide us an idea of what the improvements might be to make the intersection more usable for cars and pedestrians?
Well, they are planning to do some streetscape work along 79th Street in general as a part of the overall project. But they will be, I can't speak for CDOT on their behalf, but I can imagine that there will be, some, general roadway right-of-way improvements along 79th and Exchange to create a, more pedestrian-friendly environment, as well as, increasing vehicular safety as well.
Yeah. London, I think the developer is in the room. Would you like to introduce the developer, and then perhaps the developer would like to make a comment on
Yes.
this question?
Please.
Yeah. Leon, you can fill it out later. Yes, please.
Commissioners, hi, I'm Leon Walker, CEO of DL3 Realty Advisors. Is this working?
It's not working.
Turn it on, maybe? It's on. Good afternoon. My name is Leon Walker, and I'm the CEO of DL3 Realty Advisors. And I want to thank the commissioners for this consideration today. Want to thank Alderman Mitchell for his leadership on really thinking holistically about this block, which goes from the metro station to Escanaba. This takes that kind of leadership to result in the change we all want to see here. I want to thank the department for lifting this up. This was a holdover from a previous iteration of designs and drawings. But I can attest to the true safety hazard. How many of you guys have seen the Barbershop movie? If you have, so I see some hands going up. If you have seen the Barbershop movie, the central point on that movie was a car running into this building. All right. That is what is going on a regular basis here, not only to that building, but the building to the south, which is labeled as the B building here. That is the building we are presently under construction on. That was just approved and closed as of the end of last year for Thrive Exchange South. This is part of a holistic plan to revitalize this block and this neighborhood. I can tell you that the other L-shaped building there on to the west of B is a strip center that has been a notorious deleterious use. You may recall a few years ago, 70-something shots rang out and 7 people were put in the hospital, many of them, not coming out. So this is not only a dangerous intersection for vehicular traffic and for pedestrians, but also is a place that needs investment to turn it around. And we've started that process. We do not want to just build the B building in its on an island by itself. It's a big investment, not only by us, but by the city of Chicago in that property, which is going to bring 43 units of housing to a neighborhood that's sitting just west of the excitement that we all share about Cyquantum and Advocate and all these other investments on the USX site. But where are those folks going to live? There's nowhere in 7 or 10 presently where anyone that's going to work at Cyquantum or at Advocate would choose presently to live. There hasn't been new housing produced in this neighborhood in 75 years. So this is the beginning, really, of the investment that's needed to transform this block, create a wonderful node for families, working families to live at, for us to transform not only and bring some smart, well-designed apartments, but also homes and home ownership. So it's part of a plan, and I think this next step is incredibly important, and I urge your consideration and approval today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. London, a follow-up question for you. Do you have an idea of the timeline once this is fully approved, this land acquisition? At what point can you describe a bit what kind of the milestones are in terms of CDOT's design work and when the actual work would begin on the intersection?
So once this is approved, we can begin discussions with the property owner about the sale of the land to the city. That'll be dependent on, how quickly that moves. I anticipate that we can, if we can get demolition of the building by the end of this year, CDOT would begin their design process. That would take about a 6-month process, then construction for another 6 months. So we're looking about maybe 1.5 to 2 years from here.
And CDOT will not start the design work until the land sale agreement is
Completed.
confirmed with the owner? Is
Yes.
that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, are there any additional questions? Thank you. No written statements from the public were submitted on this matter. If there are no further questions from the commission, I would now like to invite members of the public who are in attendance and interested to speak on this item. Do we have anyone that has signed up to speak? Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes and asked to keep any statements relevant to the requests before us, but we don't have any members of the public who have signed up to speak, so I will now call this item to a vote. If there are no further questions or comments regarding the matter before us, I will call this item to a vote. The resolution before us, the Department of Planning and Development is seeking authority to acquire the property located at 7850 through 7872 South Exchange Avenue in the Avalon Park South Shore redevelopment project area. If there are no objections, I move passage of this item by the same roll call vote previously used to establish quorum. I'd first like to ask, are there any abstentions on this item? Okay. Let the record note that Commissioner Griggs has abstained from this item. Are there any objections? Hearing no objections and one abstention, the motion is approved.
Thank you. Thank you.
Commissioners, thank you. Commissioners, for the next item of new business on today's agenda, the Department of Planning and Development is seeking approval of the adoption of amendments to the bylaws of the Community Development Commission. Bailey Mitchell will provide a brief description of this request on behalf of the Department of Planning and Development.
Thanks, Chair Butler. Good afternoon, and Commissioners. For the record, my name is Bailey Mitchell, Economic Development Coordinator in the Department of Planning and Development. I'm here today to present the proposed revisions to the CDC bylaws that were previously distributed to the Commission on December 27th. I also provided you a paper copy today. As part of the Cut the Tape initiative, DPD has spent the past year reviewing several internal procedures and policies. Throughout this process, we identified a need to amend the CDC bylaws to clarify the role of the commission and the procedures and ensure that they're consistent with the Tax Increment Allocation Redevelopment Act, or known as the TIF Act, as well as the Municipal Code and the Open Meetings Act. The substantive changes to the bylaws were minimal, as they were all made to clarify for clarity and consistency with the governing legislation of the commission. To mention a few standout changes, the proposed amendments include procedures for remote participation of commissioners, procedures for creating and posting meeting agendas, and procedures for public participation. In addition to the revised bylaws, DPD has also created a separate CDC procedures guide to provide both commissioners as well as the public with a plainer language overview of the role of the body and the procedures surrounding those roles. We believe this is a critical step to ensure that the public can easily understand the larger good governance changes which are necessary, but can be hard to understand for someone that isn't familiar with the city's processes. If approved today, DPD intends to make both the amended bylaws document and the program guide publicly available on the CDC webpage. We also, again, have more copies of those documents for the public if anyone would wish to have those today. We would request your favorable consideration of this matter and are available to answer any questions that the commissioners may have.
Thank you, Bailey. Before I ask the commissioners if they have any questions, I'd like to not acknowledge, let the record reflect that Commissioner Gomez is here and participated in the vote on the first item on the agenda. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Bailey Mitchell regarding this request by the Department of Planning and Development? Commissioner Johnson.
I don't think your mic's on.
Good afternoon.
There you go.
More of a comment than a question. I'll just say, having spent the time that I spent in DPD, it was refreshing to read through the procedures manual. It was something that was long overdue. And one of the criticisms that we always used to get in the department is that people just can't understand what TIF is, how it works, and all the procedures surrounding it. So putting this into plain speak, I think, like I said, is long overdue, and kudos to the department for taking the time to do that.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Any other comments or questions? Vice Chair Thomas?
Thank you. In bylaws, section 9, remote participation, when we have a quorum And the members vote to allow a member to participate remotely. Is that full participation voting and full participation?
Yeah, for the record, Bailey Mitchell again, DPD. So that would, it is full participation. It's just required to have a quorum in person before we can allow
I
that.
understand.
It's the same as city council.
Full participation after there's a quorum.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, commissioners, don't everyone go remote yet.
Yeah, we still need a quorum in person.
We still want you present. All right, any additional questions or comments from members of the commission? Thank you. No written statements from the public were submitted on this matter. If there are no further questions or comments from members of the commission, I would now like to invite members of the public who are in attendance and interested to speak on this item, but I don't see any members of the public present in the room with us. So I will now call this item to a vote. The resolution before us, the Department of Planning and Development is seeking approval of the adoption of amendments to the bylaws of the Community Development Commission. If there are no objections, I move passage of this item by the same roll call vote previously used to establish quorum. Are there any abstentions? There are no abstentions and hearing no objections, the motion is approved. Commissioners, that was our last item on today's agenda. If there are no further questions or comments, I move to adjourn the January 14, 2025 meeting of the Community Development Commission by the same roll call vote previously used to establish quorum. Hearing none, we are adjourned. Sorry, that was too late.